Hello, everyone, and welcome back. My name is Joe, aka Joe the Wellness Curator, and this is the Obsidian Mindset Podcast, where we are redefining what wellness means to you. Welcome to episode 29. Are you doing enough, bruh? So before we get into the discussion topic of that, we're going to start off with jumping right into our quotes and affirmations. So let's get started. So as y'all know, I like to start each day off right, personally, with a meditation and or a quote or affirmation. Like I stated before, it's really to just set the vibe of myself internally, get me grounded, but also to set the vibe of the day. I think of it like the intro of a book, right? Just what do I want this day to be about? What do I want this day to say about myself? What do I want to accomplish for the day? So basically, for me, however I start the day, however I land, whatever quote or affirmation or meditation I start the day off with, is usually how the day will progress for me. That's how I've noticed. Or on the flip side, whatever I start the day off with, whatever grounding or quote or affirmation, is usually a quote or affirmation that I'll need to pull from throughout the day. If I'm either feeling not 100%, or if I feel like I need to get that extra sometimes I need to do a little callback to that affirmation for this morning. So let's get right into it. So today's affirmation is, I see good in myself. I value myself. Again, I see good in myself. I value myself. One more time. I see good in myself. I value myself. I know I typically do a short meditation, but today I wanted to show you it doesn't need to be a short meditation to ground yourself. Sometimes it's just having an affirmation or two, taking a few deep breaths in and out, and getting a quick grounded session in. And just like that, we're done. So I hope you were able to get something from that. You were able to ground just from that quick little quote, that quick little affirmation. That's something you do in your mirror, as you're walking, as you're in the car. There is never a bad time to do a quick affirmation to just give you a little pick me up, pep in your step, if we will. So now that we're grounded and hopefully we're feeling good, let's get started. Let's get into it. So firstly, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. National Alliance on Mental Illness states that this is an opportunity for all of us to come together and remember the inherent value we each hold. No matter our diagnosis, our appearance, our socioeconomic status, our background, or our ability. We want every person out there to know that we all did what was needed to do to wake up, and that's more than enough. No matter what, who you are inherently worthy of more than enough life, love, and healing. Showing up just as you are for yourself and for the people around you is more than enough. So I want to take a pause just to focus on the words more than enough. You are more than enough. You're going to hear this running theme. You are doing more than, you're doing enough, right? You are enough, right? What you're doing is you're doing it. So the terms more than enough has been very relevant in my life and how I've been showing up. So I wanted to use this opportunity to dive into it a little bit more, especially on this episode. So today we're going to be talking about a really common feeling that a lot of people experience. It's not just me, but hopefully you're able to resonate with what I'm speaking about, but it's this feeling of not doing enough. It's like when you're doing something and you start to feel like you're not doing it well enough, or you're not doing enough of it, you're not doing it fast enough. It's kind of like you're playing a game and you start to doubt yourself and think that you're not good enough to win. Sometimes even before the game starts, right? So let's talk about how, quote unquote, more than enough has been showing up in my life. So the quote itself, am I doing enough? That's basically the essence of that. And what that says, and I just said it, it's just there's all these constraints, all these additional questions that is saying to myself, am I doing enough? Am I doing what needs to be done? Am I doing it timely? Am I doing it responsibly? Am I doing what I am capable of doing? The things that I've planned to do with my life? You know, we've just come through this pandemic. We're still going through this pandemic. Let me change my wording. And the things that it's taught us is that life is short. And I think that has left a lot of people, myself included, with this sense of urgency. I need to be doing things now. I need to get it done now. And I've seen a lot of people start businesses. I've seen a lot of people start brands, started doing things they never thought they would do, start running, start their wellness journey during this time of the pandemic, this time of urgency. And I think for a lot of people, and myself included, it has led to this question, am I doing enough? Or it has led to burnout from doing too much, even when we don't see it as too much. So now that we said that, what does it feel like? This feeling of I'm not doing enough. Well, for me, it's just this overwhelming, I would say cloud. And I'm not just saying that because it's super cloudy outside. It's actually raining. But it's like this fog, no matter what I'm doing, there's like this person, now I'm mixing metaphors, but it's like this fog of like, am I doing enough? It's never bright enough, right? Because, and I'll talk about this a little later, like when I'm not taking into account the positives and the sunshines and the things that is going on, but it's always dreary. It's always, I'm not done yet. I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing it fast enough. All those same questions that keep showing up, even when I'm producing, right? Even when I'm getting results, it just does not feel enough. And the second metaphor that I was meaning to say instead of mixing them was it feels like there's a little person on my shoulder. And, you know, as I'm working, as I'm grinding, as I'm doing, the person is just speaking, saying, come on, hurry up. You plan to do more. You're supposed to be done by this last week. Come on, let's do this. Chop, chop. And, you know, it feels so demoralizing. It feels like you're competing against this entity and you're just never going to win. It's like a big battle. Now I'm adding another metaphor. If y'all know me, I just like to throw in metaphors because if I give you 5, you'll at least get one of them. But it's just like you're at similar to the game metaphor. It's just like you're at the big boss of a video game. And before you even get there, you already know you went through all these stages. You went through all the levels to get there. You got all your plus ones, your lives, the superpowers. And then you see him, you see the boss. It's just like, no, I can't do it. I'm not ready. I don't have it. I don't have it in me. Even before you even try. Right? So I hope you can relate to that. I hope there's some type of resonance with that. But for me personally, this has been showing up in a lot of spaces. And that's partially the reason why I skipped a week or two of the podcast. So I haven't released something in a month, ironically, for mental awareness month. But for me, when it comes to either podcasting, when it comes to this business I'm doing for Obsidian, even when I think of like social things like friends and family and dating, the question of are you doing enough comes up a lot. And I'll focus right now on podcasting and the business and some events. In my head, I have so many plans. If you know me, I love to speak about it. I have so many plans. There's so many things I want to do with Obsidian, this community. I've done a lot so far. And I've appreciated all these goals I've hit and all the lives I've impacted and all the events we've done so far. But there's just so much more that I want to do. And that's out of a place of love and my mission and my vision. It's not even in a place of like, I want to get paid. Well, I do want to get paid. But it's like a place of like, this is what I want to do. I want to spread this mission, this mindset. And I want to do it urgently. I want to do it quickly. I want to do it because I believe people need to hear this message and they need to find their own wellness journey. And everyone deserves wellness. Like, I love talking about that. If you know me, you know me, and I'll do it. And I always want to hear about other people's journeys as well. But some of that I was talking about burnout, that has an impact, right? It has an impact on me. It has an impact on what I'm doing outside of this, right? If I put too much effort on the business and podcasting, there's only 24 hours in Beyonce's day, right? There's only 24 hours. So it's like if I do put in more effort into this, then I might be taking away from friends, family, and dating and time with Ginger, my dog. And is that worth it? Right? There's some decisions you have to make, and there's a nice balancing act. And the simple and direct question of are you doing enough, or in the title of this episode, are you doing enough, bruh? It does not take in consideration the other parts, right? Even how we speak about wellness in terms of 8 dimensions, asking myself, are you doing enough, does not even bring it into the conversation of things that I am doing in other spaces. There's this, it actually comes from a place of scarcity, right? It's this, I'm not doing enough, instead of saying I'm doing plenty. So let's go a little bit deeper. And I think for me, this stems from a lot where this conversation, I'll call it a nagging conversation in the back of my head of you're not doing enough, or are you doing enough, whichever version comes up, is I always have plans, and then I always compare it to where I am. And I've come into this thought or this vision of myself that I am actually a dreamer and a visionary. And for a long time, I went against this framing or this characterization. Honestly, I always felt like, okay, I'm an accountant, I'm a numbers guy. I don't really need to be a visionary or a dreamer. I do the numbers, right? I do the research. And recently, I've realized that that's so limiting. There are so many other facets to myself. There's the wellness piece. There's the athlete. There's the guy that loves to just ideate and brainstorm with people, even if it's not in my field. There's the person that loves to just help and support people. So I didn't allow myself to become the dreamer or embrace it or lean into it, actually, until I started doing Obsidian. And then I was like, you know what? I am a dreamer. I am a visionary. So let's lean into that. Let's see what that brings me. So some of the pros for being a visionary and a dreamer, and let's see, and there are tests out there to see what you categorize as. And some of the pros that I've seen for someone that considers themselves a dreamer or a visionary is, they have grand ideas, grand innovations, amazing solutions to fix all of the world's problems, or whichever niche you are. They're always trying to help the world, help their community, help people around them, try to make things easier. They're the inventors, the problem solvers. And they just think of endless possibilities. They're always trying to fix something that, is causing harm, causing churn. And it's amazing. It usually is a party in the brain, right? There's always something going on. Fast speed. Now, the cons that I've always seen is like, yes, all that is true, but sometimes it's hard to get things started. The execution isn't always there, right? Sometimes it's hard to get support, or you feel like you can only do it alone because it's in your head. Sometimes it's hard to visualize or to vocalize, actually, what you're thinking about or what your plan is. Sometimes it's hard to stay focused before your next big idea comes into your brain and you're like, oh, time to move over, time to start doing this thing. And to me, one of the biggest cons is comparing your many visions to where you are now, which is what I typically do. This question of like, I know this vision, which is like I want to say a pipe dream, but like it's a big vision versus me being at step number 1.5, and it feels like I'm very far off. Especially if you give yourself timetables, like I should be here by this day, I should be here by this year, I should be here by this year. This is where, to me, the question of am I doing enough starts to pop up. And you start asking yourself this question, or I start asking myself this question, but there are so many better questions I could be asking myself. So let's talk about those questions. Instead of me being judgmental of am I doing enough, I could be asking, is this feasible? Right? Is this idea, is this dream even feasible? Before I judge myself, did I put the right parameters in for this goal to be done? Do I have the tools and the resources to do it, to execute? Boom. Do I need to do it all now? This, instead of making it a big idea, big thing, can I chop this up into 10 different goals? Make it bite-sized, as we like to say. What is this, the quote? Take bite size of the elephant, whatever that carnivoric quote is. But do I really need to do all of it now? It's okay to take time. It's okay to, instead of trying to burn yourself out and do it in a year, to do it in phases and do it within 5 years. Slow, organic growth and progress. And this could be talking about business, could be talking about family, could be talking about you're writing a book. It could be talking about releasing that vlog or podcast, right? Take your time. You know, we are urgent people, right? We want to help folks now, but to what cost? So what are some other questions? Do I need support or do I need a team? Right? Do I need finances? Do I need a grant? Do I need to take courses about how to be a better writer? Is there really a need for this dream or this vision now? Like I said, can I start it later? Is it something that's already out there that I might be able to add on to instead of starting from scratch? Why do I need to reinvent the wheel? And lastly, and I think this one's the hardest, and I don't know if everyone will agree, but I think this is the hardest to me, is just because it's a vision doesn't mean it's my vision to execute, right? I might have a great idea, but it might not be the one that I need to be starting. It might be an idea that I think XYZ, my best friend, should do. Let me go pitch it to her. Or it might be one that I see this other brand that's on my level. They have all the tools and infrastructure ready to set up. Let me pitch it to them. Or similar to the support question, oh, I see this vision, but I know these 5 people would be able to collaborate with me and we'd be able to knock it out the park. So it's about less of, am I doing enough? But how do I reframe this question into different questions to get execution? Because the am I doing enough is routed in one, like I said, scarcity, but 2, in this vision that sometimes isn't always fully baked. But in actuality, we can start to compare it to what we can execute. It's the plan versus execution, and judging your execution off your original plan isn't always smart. So, I've touched on a few things. So we're going to go on a quick break, and then we're going to discuss a little bit more in detail about that raggedy ass question of, am I doing enough? Be right back. Hey y'all, Joe the Wellness Curator here. Are you looking to start or revamp your wellness journey? Or are you ready to finally make those travel goals a reality? Well, I am here to help. I want to really talk about it. So feel free to schedule a free consultation with me using my link tree, which is in the show notes, and let's chat. Together, we'll figure out how to make sure you're living your best life. And that starts now. I can't wait to start talking with you about this. All right, let's get it. All right, y'all, welcome back. Okay, so before the break, I spoke about how I am not enough shows up in my life, and hopefully you can resonate with one or any of those examples, or you can come up with some of your own. But let's go a little deeper. Like, what is leading us to that question of I'm not doing enough, or am I doing enough, whichever variation that comes up to you, and how can we fix that mindset? So to me, there's a few things that come up, some of these things that are causing these questions, but I'm going to talk about the ones that I resonate with. So for me, number one is doubt. That is always something that's always nagging me. Self-doubt or doubt based off some other things that we can talk about. But just like there's always this question when I'm starting something or when I'm in the progress of something, even if I'm doing it well, once again, that guy on the shoulder starts asking questions, spreading the doubt, and then you start to question the whole process or the whole vision or the whole goal. We got to cut that out. We got to cut that shit. Another thing that's causing the am I not enough question is you're not doing things that are not aligned with you, your purpose, your calling, or your spirit. That one is a little bit rougher. That's when you got to kind of soul search and make sure. Because a lot of the times when you think about I'm not doing enough, that question comes up in the aspect of more of the totality than the one specific area that I've been kind of talking about. To me, I feel like if you're aligned in your purpose and your passion and your calling, then that question shouldn't be as loud. I think it's always going to be there, at least for me. But, if I'm saying, okay, my purpose, my mission is to spread the thought of wellness should be for everyone and allowing everyone to see themselves in wellness and making sure that I am leading that charge and doing that as well in my own life. And for me, if I'm doing that and doing that faithfully, even if I'm taking breaks or I'm taking rest or I'm giving myself grace, I'm always going to feel like I'm doing enough because I'm following that path. And I think if that question resonates with you, I think it's important for you to kind of just sit with it, brainstorm, thinking about it. Like literally pause the podcast if that's the question that kind of resonates with you, and take a second to think of what is driving you. Like what drives you? What do you love to do? I hate this question. I kind of like this question. I kind of hate it. But if you were doing something that you did not get paid for, but you still got to do, because let's say your rent's paid, all bills are paid, all you have to do is about doing this task because you love it, what would that task be? Take a few minutes, write it down, and then press play again. So that's the second question or thought that usually, to me, comes up. Another question about are you doing enough is the imposter syndrome. I've talked about this in past episodes. She's raggedy. I'll tell you that right now. For those that don't know, imposter syndrome is where you feel like you don't belong, or you're not really good enough, or you're not worthy to be doing whatever you're doing. You could be qualified to the 9. You could have 7 degrees, 80 certifications, top of your class. You could be working out, doing marathons every day. You could be have the love of your life. You could be, doing all these things, and somehow imposter syndrome could still show up for you. It is just saying, I don't belong. I don't deserve these things. I don't know how I got it. I don't deserve it, right? And it shows up, and then it leads into, am I doing enough so that I can end up deserving it, or I can figure out how to, get to the next level, whatever that looks like. She's a raggedy one because she shows up a lot in different iterations too. So watch out for her. Next, comparing yourself to someone or something else. Now, baby, this one, we'll talk about a little later again, but this one for me shows up a lot when I watch, or if I'm on social media too much. For me, I know social media for me is a double-edged sword. It has a lot of benefits and a lot of tools. It helps with like community and stuff like that. But for me, if I'm consuming too much, especially the ways that algorithms are shown, especially if we talk about, and there's been conversations, and I hope we'll talk about this in the future, about the epidemic of loneliness, the loneliness epidemic. For me, social media has shown, if I spend too much time on it, this thing of comparison sneaks up in the back of my mind. And usually, to be honest and vulnerable, it usually comes up when it comes to looking at other people's bodies and physiques. And me saying, oh my gosh, that's like my quote unquote dream physique. I wish I had that. And, I appreciate my athleticism. I appreciate being able to do things, have results. But there's still that in the back of my head, and it's kind of tied to imposter syndrome. It's just like, I wish I had that physique. What do I need to get there? And then it kind of stays in my mind as I'm on social media more, right? It always pops up. It comes up first. And for me, and we'll talk, actually, I'll save it for the tips, but that's just another thing that comes into mind. And lastly, this one I think is more about the logistics, is, are you doing enough, bruh? That question comes up when your goals aren't defined or aren't quote unquote smart. We've talked about SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely or time bound. Again, SMART goals, specific. Are the goals specific? Are they narrow and you're able to implement them effectively? Are they measurable, right? Are you defining how much you're going to hit by when, so you're able to reevaluate your progress and make changes if you're necessary? Are they achievable or attainable? Like making sure that they're, like I said, is it feasible? Can I get this done within a certain period of time? Is it relevant? Are these goals aligned with, like I said, your vision, your values, your goals, your long-term objectives? And lastly, time-bound or timely or time-based. Is my time frame around it actually make sense? So me saying I'm going to run a marathon next week, that's not timely for me. I need 3 to 4 months of training. But someone else might be, right? So it's just about knowing yourself and knowing if the goal is smart for you. And I think a lot of times I'll speak for myself, I miss one of these pieces, and then that's what causes that when that gap is there, right? When one of the goal isn't smart and the gap is there, then it allows me to fill the space with the scarcity mindset and the question, are you doing enough, bruh? So now let's talk about the logical and the illogical about this for a second. Now, logically, let's talk about the logical side because I'm an accountant. So logically, we know that we're doing enough. I know I'm doing a lot. I'm doing a lot. My sleep track record tells me that. But I have so many things going on in my life. You have so many things going on in your life. And you're likely doing a good job with all or most of it. Right? You have an abundance of things going on. You have an abundance of things that you're doing, and you're doing them well. It's just that in your mind, and let me share back to me, in my mind, I don't give myself credit for a lot of the things I'm doing. I think I've said it in the previous episodes, but I'll talk about some of these things like checklists. Yes, I did this. Yes, started a podcast. Yes, I filed the formation of the business. Yes, I talked to my friend today. Yes, I went on 3 dates. Yeah, like I check these off, and then I kind of throw them away and we'll focus on what's next on the list. And the issue with that is, one, I don't get to take stock in what I did, embrace it, enjoy it, reevaluate if I need to, or celebrate if I need to. Because not everything's a failure. It's just I'm not taking enough time to breathe and be with it. So I'm doing enough. That's the logical side. But on the other side, right, the not so logical side, it's just that I feel like I could be doing more. And that, you see, and there's two pieces. The first part, the logical part, the quote unquote logical part, is like abundance, right? I know I'm doing enough, I'm doing a lot, I'm doing amazing. And then the other side, the scarcity mindset, is like I'm not doing enough. There's not enough time to get everything I want done. There's not enough people helping me. I'm not getting enough support. I'm not getting enough finances. There's people doing it better than me on social media. My peers are far ahead of me. They're making more money than me. I feel like I'm falling short. Right? You see how these two mindsets, they're fighting each other. And I call them logical, illogical, but it's actually scarcity and abundance. And I'll say for me, it's not like when I say I have an abundant mindset, it's not saying that scarcity is not there. Scarcity is always going to be that sneaky trick, sneaky hoe that is in the back of my mind, just always like snipping. That guy on the shoulder, that's scarcity. He's talking. And it's not that you're ever going to get rid of it, but it's always having the tools to combat it. So that's something that we're going to talk about next. So now that we know that those questions are there, that scarcity mindset is always going to be there. I'm not worthy. I don't have enough time. I can't do it. It's not for me. Someone can do it better. How do we combat that feeling? Boom. So let's get started. Number one, let's start reminding ourselves. Let me remind me how inherently valuable and worthy I am for being me. Right? Let's take that first step. A lot of these conversations aren't always about I'm not doing enough. It's not about the doing. It's actually rooted in I'm not worthy enough. I don't deserve. Well, spoiler alert, we are worthy, we are enough, and we're doing enough. So let's take it. I am worthy, I am enough, I'm doing enough. I'm just going to repeat it again. I am worthy. This is for you now. You repeat after me. I am worthy. I'm doing enough. I am enough. And I think it's really important just to every now and then, just remember to say that. This goes against the affirmations why it's important. I am worthy. I'm doing enough. I am enough. So boom. Number 2. Remember that we should always be shifting our perspective and focus on what we're doing well rather than what we're not doing. Right? Like I said, scarcity versus abundance. Abundance allows us to celebrate what we've done. We could celebrate our small victories and accomplishments and remind ourselves that every little bit counts. That little thing, quote unquote, little thing that you did, the little thing that I did that took months to do, I did that. You did that. And we might be years away from our ultimate goal, but we are a couple months and a couple of progress. I'm going to use a progress bar because I'm thinking about Sims, but we're a couple progress bars away from where we started from. And that's an achievement. So let's, if I had a clapping soundtrack, I'd add it. If I find it, I'll add it. But that's what we get to celebrate today. And this is why for me, if you've listened to the podcast enough, if you're a veteran, this is why I take gratitude so seriously and why it's so important. When I focus on, like, I'm an accountant, I'm a logical guy, I never really understood gratitude. Once again, focusing on the checklist, right? Get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done. But then when you add gratitude of just like taking a second to stop, breathe, and be grateful for everything you have, everything you've done, focus on the little victories, it makes doing your next step, it makes the whole journey make more sense. It makes just the progress feel like you're doing stuff and you're appreciative of what you've done and what you get to do. Boom. Okay. So last thing, just be more mindful and present in the moment rather than worrying about what you need to do next. Woo! Let's do that again. Be more mindful and present in the moment rather than worrying about what you need to do next. By staying present, we are fully allowed to enjoy the things that we are doing and appreciate our own efforts. Again, the am I doing enough, bruh, is focused on the expectation, the plan. But what I was saying that we need to do is focus on the present, what I'm doing now, what I did, right? Focus on the efforts that we are putting in, the hours you're putting in, the time and money and effort and all the things that you're doing now. And you get to celebrate and enjoy that, to go back to the last point. So remember, if you are ever starting to feel like you're not doing enough, take a deep breath, remind yourself that you are enough, and focus on all the amazing things that you've done or you're doing so far. Because we bad, and I'm saying bad as in good, but we bad. So before we wrap up, I just want y'all to do one thing for me this week. I want you to take some time. I know we've been going a mile a minute. I've been going a mile a minute. But I really want you to take some time to reflect on your own feelings of not doing enough or not being enough, and to try to identify where those feelings are coming from. I gave you a few lists, such as, doubt, comparing yourself, things of that nature. Think about what your feelings are coming from. If you can really go back, if you really want to do the work, even trying to figure out where it came from, as in what situation. Was there something in the past that happened? And if you don't have the tools or the capability to do that, feel free to enlist a licensed professional. And once you identify those feelings and where they're coming from, then you get to start asking yourselves, what am I comparing myself to? Are these expectations realistic? Am I being too hard on myself? So try that out. Let's see how that works. I'm gonna do the two. So let's see, because this is just all this was just the tip of the iceberg. I have a little bit more. I don't want to scare y'all off by explaining it all on the podcast, and I also don't want it to be a 5-hour podcast if I go through all of mine. But trust me, I'm on your page. I feel you. And I'm saying this to myself, and hopefully it resonates with you too again. But enough is enough. We are too amazing. We are too blessed. We are too abundant, too attractive, too joyous, too powerful, too authentic. I can keep going on. Again, I don't want to make this a 5-hour podcast. But we are too all that. All that. We are too all that to be doing this. To have that scarcity mindset. To be asking ourselves, am I doing enough? We are doing enough. Like I said. We are worthy. And it is not until we sit with these feelings and these thoughts and figure out where it stems from that we can create this tools and the systems to combat it. So now that we know we are worthy and we know we are doing enough, let's take another quick break, and then we get to discuss our new segment, Medals, Milestones, and Mishaps. All right, welcome back. Okay, so we are going to close out this episode by introducing our new segment, Medals, Milestones, and Mishaps, sponsored by Obsidian Wellness Club, which is us too, because we about that. And let me tell you what this segment's about. Okay, so boom. Y'all know I be running. I like to run. I'm one of the run folks. And I've always heard people come up to me and they'll ask me about the races I'm doing. Now, I know some people think I'm very intense when it comes to running, that I do a lot of races and long distance. And a lot of it comes from a place of inquiry and just wanting to know how it starts. So they're not interested in doing a marathon tomorrow, but they want to know the progression. They want to know about 5Ks. They want to know about what the process is, what do you got to do in the morning, how do you register. So I want to give more visibility and transparency about that and what goes in my mind, because a lot of people think I'm some bionic beast that I wake up and I'm ready to do all these things, when there's a lot of mental and physical prep necessary. So I want to keep y'all in the loop. I want to get y'all answering any questions that y'all may have, as well as shedding some light on things that happened. And, you know, even if you don't want to do the race, I'm here to help. I'm also, even if you don't want to do the race, I'm here to give y'all the highlights, lowlights, the tea, and the shade, and some entertaining stories about these races. So we're going to start with the first race that we're going to be doing for this segment, and that's the 2023 RBC Brooklyn Half Marathon. Okay, so boom. It happened on Saturday, May 20th in Brooklyn, New York. Overall, I've done this race 8 times. So over the course of my wellness journey, I've done this race 8 times. So it's clear to say that this race is one of my favorites. This is one of my favorite long distance races, one of my favorite half marathons. And half marathon is actually my favorite distance race, I think. To me, marathons just take a lot of time, right? I think that's a good 4 or 5 months of training. While a half marathon, if you're running consistently, to me, and I've noticed in my progress, in my wellness journey, I don't need as much preparation. So this race, I did 11 weeks because I haven't done a race in a while. But if I can consistently do long runs and consistently do my training, I can do a race with, a month leeway, 2 weeks leeway. So the reason why I love this race specifically, not only is it the distance and not only is it just the race, but it's the location, it's the course, the crowd, and the vibe that Brooklyn has to offer. It is a very popular race, and getting in is not guaranteed, so you need to enter the lottery. So don't think you're going to come up on the day before and jump in. Nope, you got to make sure you do it in advance. This is through New York Roadrunners as well. So if you don't know who New York Roadrunners are or is, it is an organization that throws races or that organize races throughout the year. One of my favorite things about being a part of since I moved, one of the things I miss about New York is the New York Roadrunners, because they have such a litany of races, and as well as educational courses. They have a physical location. They do seminars. They have I won't call them running celebrities, but there are running celebrities, and you get to meet them. So it's a real, and the New York, to me, the running club and the running community in New York is just so big and so great. It's great to see people. Even when I'm doing races, I'll see people that I don't know, but I know of because I see them at races, and either we're the same pace or we're the, sorry. So, this is going to be a tangent. So hang with me for a second. But if you know me, you know that I also like to have competition in my head. I'm very competitive, and I will create competition even if there is none. So this race, there's, for me, I'm not doing it to be like first, second, win or anything like that. But in my head, I'll pick a person in the race, and I'll have that person be that's my person. That's the person I'm competing against in my head. So I always try to keep up with them. I usually give them a weird nickname. I think I've said this in the last podcast. This race, I didn't have any particular person. But in the past, I've had someone called Little Boy Blue because he was wearing all blue, and I was just following him. He was a really good pacer because he was very consistent. He had very good cadence. He was always in the line of sight. So there's some criteria, and I'll go through that in a later time of what makes a good criteria for like a quote unquote pacer. Mind you, there are also pacing groups and people that pace. That comes a part of the race sometimes. So New York Road Runners, let's say you have a pace of, like, you have a goal to finish by a certain time, which involves having a pace. So for instance, I don't know what the pace numbers are, but let's say I want to finish before 2 hours. There's someone that holds the stick up that says 2 hours on it. And if you followed him or her for the whole race, you'll get that time. And that's usually a good visual marker. Also, if you want to like catch a certain time or be between two times, you might use those I guess pacers to help you with that. Usually they're crowded around or they're followed by a big group of people. I would say sometimes 15, 20 people. And they usually have it at half marathons and marathons as well. So it's a good way to keep a visual pace of where you are, especially if you're not watching your watch all the time or things of that nature. Okay, so let's get off that tangent. So for this race in particular, it was pretty cloudy. And there were worries about rain. So it was off and on. I was looking at that the weather report religiously the last 2 days. Because at first it was like no rain, then it said maybe, and then it said it'll start at 10 a.m. And I was just nervous because I don't run in the rain. That's hard stop. Like, I can do a cute drizzle and I can do a mist, but if there are large droplets, I'm mentally checked out. Especially if the rain comes before it starts, I'm mentally checked out. Just tag me out. And I'll work on it. I'll get better, blah, blah, blah. I'll be able to run in all terrains eventually. But for me, there are a lot of reasons why I don't like it, but the one reason I don't like running in wet socks. If my socks get wet, tag me out. If I have a long run and I step in a puddle and my socks are wet, tag me out. We're done. It's over. I hate it. So the Brooklyn Half Marathon boasts that it's the biggest half marathon in the U.S. So I believe this race had 26,000 participants, which is wild. It's a lot of people. And, it's wild, but it's also not surprising because it is a pretty amazing, iconic, and flat course. Besides Prospect Park, which has these crazy hills, if you've ever run in Prospect Park, there's these two hills that are pretty gradual. And no matter how, I'll speak from experience, I'll say for myself, because when I was in Brooklyn, that's where I used to train out of. No matter how much times you do that loop in Brooklyn, Prospect Park, you will never be prepared for that hill in the race. I'll say that to me. That's how it is. It gets a little easier each time, but it's something about that hill. It just makes or breaks you. It's a beast. But other than that, the course is pretty flat. Pretty good crowd participation. The water stations are placed at a really good cadence, as well as the Gatorade stations. So kudos to that for that. So anyway, I was in wave one. I had to be at my corral by 6:50 a.m. I was luckily staying with my niece. Shout out to Ayana in Flatbush. So I was able to be there in 20 minutes to get to the Franklin Avenue train stop, which is where the corral started. So Brooklyn, like I said, boasts 26,000 participants. And one thing that's happened this year and couple of years since I started running this race is there's been metal detectors and security at both corral starting points, which changes the dynamic of how you enter. So it's not like you just jump on in the corral. Now you have to put all your stuff either in a cart that they can view, and you jump in, you walk through the metal detector, and that just adds more time. So I was probably in line to get to the metal detectors for at least 30 minutes. It just took a while to get through, especially since I came a little late. I luckily did not have anything to check. So if you're at a race, usually the bigger races, usually most races, have a place where you can check, if you have a bag, you bring extra pair of clothes, extra sneakers, your wallet, keys, any of that things you can check. I didn't do that, and that allows me some more breathing time to get to the corral. But the metal detectors and security is a long process. So just make sure you're always saving time for that. I've only seen the security at half marathons and marathons. I typically do not see them at 10Ks, 5Ks, things of that nature. So once I got into my corral, this is like when you have your own personal pre-race routine. So for me, it's like the time to stretch. I'll have my little bit of water, my last bit of water, use the bathroom if I need to, take my goo gel. That's my preferred nutrition. Some people do apples, some people do gummies, some people do the purpose of the nutrition is one, usually is caffeine or sugar to keep you going, as well as some type of carb, because you're going to keep on losing it. And there's a cadence for me that I take the goo gels, but that's also it's a part of the nutrition conversation. And we probably have to talk a little bit more about that later. So just put a pin in that, not for this episode, but in the future. So in the corral, pre-race routine also could be, like I said, using the bathroom. The one thing I like about this race as well is that there was a lot of porta potties in each corral, so that was not an issue. Getting your playlist ready, or even having your pre-race playlist. So I have some songs that just hype me up before I even move across the start line. And, if you're feeling social or you're having a little bit of anxiety and it's all within you, you can even talk to people around you. So it depends. I'm a hit or miss. I'm sometimes not feeling very social. I just like to be in my playlist, in my head, getting ready to prep myself up. I give my affirmations and just visualize the course and get ready to go. But, there is the once in a blue moon when someone is either looking nervous or they're looking super confident, and I'll just strike up a conversation. Because at the end of the day, some of the people around you are going to be the same people that are going to be with you throughout the course, because these are typically the way the corrals are set up. They're people of the same pace as you, so you'll probably be seeing them throughout. So you never know who will end up being your motivation during the race, or if you'll be their motivation during the race. So it's just always good to get to know the people around you. So once I'm prepped, once I got prepped for the race, it started misting. And I was like, baby, if it could stay at this level, I could work with this. Mist, I can do. Cute, do. Get it? Do? Yeah. All right, whatever. So the race starts, and I'm starting off strong. I've trained for 11 weeks, like I said, and I'm mentally ready. The route is basically towards Prospect Park, one loop of Prospect Park, and then you go straight to Coney Island. So that's 13.1 miles. That's half a marathon. Overall, I was able to keep a nice steady pace. I didn't focus too much on my time and pace this race. Typically, I'll have like a bracelet with all the times, or I'll have my watch kind of let me know if I'm like in my pace zone. But this time, I just wanted to finish. That's my equivalent of just taking it easy and chilling. Focus on my music, enjoying myself, enjoying the course and the vibes around it. And I think I'm proud. I'm glad I did it. I was able to finish, and that's an achievement. Like I said, the crowd participation was really important, especially since it was ugly out there and cloudy. And I think it was amazing. Even when in those conditions, people still showed up and was there to motivate and support people, whether they knew the people or not. And I love that. That's one thing I also love about the race community or the running community, is that people will show up to support you, even if they don't know you. It's a beautiful thing. Some other things that happened, some mishaps, was I accidentally lost. So I have a belt that I put all my things in. So my phone, my keys, my wallet, and I also put my glue gels on. There's like a harness or there's like a hook where you could put your glue gels in. I lost one. So basically I take one every 3 miles. And since I lost one, my last 3 miles were pretty much impacted. So I was losing a little bit of steam because the ones I use have a little bit of caffeine in it. But the people and the music did help me bring me to life some. So that was really good. So I'll say that I will not, and the last thing I will say is I try not to focus on the scale in my wellness journey, but I still peak. But when it comes to long distance races, especially marathons, I could always tell when I'm holding a little extra weight. And I don't say this in terms of being judgmental towards myself, but I'm just saying this in terms of like peak performance, right? I always like to think back to 2020. I like to think back to 2015, and that's when I was seeing amazing results, amazing times, and I was really flourishing in my performance. But I was like maybe 30, 40 pounds lighter. So is that something I'm thriving for? I don't think so, or at least not yet. But next year, if I'm doing a marathon, that's probably definitely something I'll try to go for. Okay, so those were some of the highlights and lowlights of the race. So in terms of 5 gem rating, we like to do our little ratings here. With 1 gem being nah, it's a chop. And 5 gems being no, give me more now. I would give this race a 4.5. Like I said, I love this race. 4.5 gems. I love this race. It's a great starter race to me for a half marathon. I'm not saying not starter race as in I've never run anything. Let me do a half marathon. Although I do have friends that have done it. Shout out to Alex. She's going to tell you I peer pressured her, but don't believe her. I did not do such a thing. I just asked suggestive questions, and she just said she'd be interested. Anyway, I think it's a really good race to start off with. Usually the medals are amazing. And this is where the T-shade comes in. I took off 0.5 gems because this year the medal wasn't the best. It was kind of blah. And as a recovering medal thought, as I used to call myself, that hurt me. I love a good medal. So I say all that to say, great race. Think about it. And think about it for 2024. So that was medals, milestones, and mishaps. We'll be back next month to discuss our next couple of Spartan races. So let's wrap up the show. All right, y'all. It has been an episode. It has been an amazing episode. I hope you were able to get some gems out of this. Feel free to give me any feedback, questions, comments, or what you would like to hear in the next episode by emailing me at joe@definedbyobsidian.com. You could DM us on IG via my personal IG, which is Joe the Wellness Curator, the podcast IG, which is Obsidian Mindset, or the Wellness Club, which is Obsidian Wellness Club. We also have some dope events coming up, so make sure you follow up on IG, Eventbrite, or the Meetup app. Also, Obsidian Mindset officially has merch. If you want to purchase a unisex sweatshirt or a fire dad hat, stop by our Spotify store or on the Obsidian Mindset IG merch store. We'll be expanding the collection throughout the year, so stay tuned for that. And lastly, like I like to say, I appreciate you all and thank you for picking you today. Bye, y'all.